Welcome back to our Line Opinion panel for one last segment. The pharmacy chain Walgreens has agreed to pay New Mexico $500 million to settle the state's legal claims over the company's role in the opioid epidemic. Now, that settlement is the largest in New Mexico's history of court battles with opioid manufacturers and distributors as well. And it marks the last in a series of deals struck with final pharmacy carrying companies, including Albertsons, CVS, Kroger, and Walmart. Get this, those four chains settled with the state last fall for a combined $274 million. The Walgreens money is going to be spread across the next 15 years. This is interesting too. I want Merritt to touch on this. 55% going to local municipalities, 45% of it going to the state. Now, beyond that breakdown, we don't have many specifics, Merritt, on how the funds will be used. Maybe a little more transparency might help here, but in your initial thought about how the money breaks down and who gets it, is this fair to everyone involved?
I think that seems right. It worries me that there is not the infrastructure to accept that money.
Right.
I mean, we don't have the providers to really manage that money and provide treatment. And so I hope the state would look at using their portion of the money to help create that infrastructure. Or consider an investment fund to sustain a behavioral health network. I think that would be the most sensible. That would be the most sensible thing because when we got our notes from the show, one of the questions was, can the state manage this money effectively? My first thought was, no, of course not.
$500 million.
Yeah, and it just. I don't feel like we have a good track record with it, but certainly our rural areas have been hurt so badly, and I feel like disproportionately by the opioid crisis. I like seeing it go to municipalities. The problem is they're the ones who lack the most infrastructure to really administer those funds. And so if the state could really focus on helping those municipalities get the infrastructure and the providers they need, I think that would be a really good use of this.
It's an interesting point, Sean, that Merritt's making here, this idea of hot spots around the state, and there are for opioid epidemics, but her previous point about rural versus urban, Albuquerque's battle is certainly different than Clovis or wherever the case may be. Should there be more stipulations about how this money goes to certain areas around the state, as opposed to how we usually do it? Albuquerque and Santa Fe grab the biggest portion and then we all just kind of move on and don't think about it. Is this an opportunity here to really lean into some rural areas of our state?
I think it is, yes, incredible opportunity here. This whole opioid era of addiction affected every single person.
Yeah.
I graduated high school in 2006, and at that point, the opioids were already around schools. Students were abusing them, using them, and 17 years later, the amount of people who've already died or are still in their addiction is staggering. Yes. And that's across the state. That's everybody. And that's not just even for people in my generation. That's all of us here that experience that at some point. Like we're several layers, if not one direct layer, or personally from experiencing that ourselves. Right. So yeah, it needs to be distributed in a way that will support rural health systems and just our rural people.
We're talking a combined $775 million. You know what I mean? To Merritt's point, why aren't we out building stuff like right now? This would seem to be the opportunity, to really get after this.
That's the question. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that, and this is something that I've been trying to think about as to what is staggering to the state that's going to prevent us from spending this immediately. Now there are some layers of how the state can distribute it and where it's going to go, and potential investment might actually store that money away so it can grow and build, and we won't be able to tap that for any type of immediate infrastructure. But I don't know. I really wish I could answer that, and I know that you need my answer for something like this.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Interesting, Martha. This past session, opioid problem bills largely failed in the roundhouse, as we called it. Just something, it didn't quite connect there. Might this additional money, might this money change some minds up there this next coming session?
Hope so. They didn't fail so much as they just died.
Thank you.
That's what happened. Right. They never got to the floor.
Yep.
And it's been such a crisis. I am amazed that they could not prioritize that long enough to look at, there were two bills, I believe, that should have been given some serious consideration. And that did not happen.
One of them might have been House Bill 263, would have created overdose prevention centers where drug users could safely consume controlled substances. Sounds very European, but that's where we are right now, which would include fentanyl. And there was HB 263 that had first been introduced in 2021. Let me kick over here to Merritt. Let's stay on our legislature. What do these folks need to do? I won't say they're not taking it seriously, but something's not quite connecting on how to attack the problem. Again, is $500 million the lever to make this happen?
It could be. I was really puzzled by the legislature this session. I mean, you looked at the glaring need for child welfare legislation, and nothing happened. Right. So I don't know that the legislature is going to be the answer. It has to. I think it may have to become an executive priority, and I don't like that either. I don't like giving too much power to a single branch of government, and that's what worries me so much about getting to huge windfalls like this, because our government is not functioning well, and it's not serving us well. So, in an ideal world, yes, the legislature would take this action, and I would encourage them to do so and consider the infrastructure and the network we need to actually get people the care they need, which we do not have right now.
That's right.
But I'm very worried that this is going to be a windfall that goes nowhere.
Right. I'm hearing you. I'm absolutely hearing you. Sean, interestingly, addiction and substance use disorder is not our only problems here. I'm wondering, I know we're going to have stipulations on how the money can be used, but there's an argument to be made there are other impacts of drug use like fentanyl and such that could use some infusion of capital as well. Do you anticipate perhaps a battle over how we can use this money? Because just using it for opioid abatement, again, that's a very wide tunnel to drive through. A lot of things could fit in there, so to speak. Any anticipation there?
I mean, we have to look at the providers of fentanyl, and I don't think that the AG is going to be able to sue any cartels and win a settlement. Right. So yeah, there could potentially be an issue where, hey, look, this is our current addiction crisis right now, and fentanyl is at the peak right now. We don't even know what's going to come after that. Right. So there could be another drug and another addiction issue that comes through. That's right. Because it's unfortunate that the United States has lost the war on drugs, and Americans love their drugs, and the addiction issues here across the country and what we see in the state are not going anywhere. They're only accelerating into higher and higher doses. This
makes my question to Martha more interesting still. These funds would be allocated over 15 years. Is there a reasonable time we could expect results from something like this? Are we at that place in society? In 10 years we want this better. In 5 years we want this better. Are we there yet?
If you've got any plan, you got to say, what's the first thing we do? And Gene, I am astounded that this has been in litigation for years. Why isn't there already a plan? They had to know
that this was coming.
Coming. They didn't know how much, but the steps could have been outlined. And now we're caught flat-footed, frankly. Merritt is right. There's no plan. There should have been a plan. Yeah. And
do you trust a plan that's going to be hurriedly put together?
Not much. Yeah. No. And one thing that yeah, they got Walgreens and some of the other legitimate providers. Not a word about the illegal manufacturers of fentanyl. Right. Nothing. What is being done about that? Are they trying to see who they are, where they are, and what is their supply chain? Yeah. Walgreens and the rest of them, they probably did a cost-benefit analysis and said, we're going to make more money on fentanyl than we're going to pay out in a settlement. That's right. But the illegal folks seem to me to just be off the radar.
That's right. That's right. Interesting point there. Wish we had more time for this one. It's a big one for New Mexico. But thanks again to our line panel as always this week. Be sure to let us know what you think about any of the topics these folks covered on our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram pages. And catch any episode you might have missed on the PBS app, which is pretty cool, your Roku or your smart TV. Thanks again for joining us, for staying informed and engaged. We'll see you again next week in Focus.